They put me in the car, then they drove me around Palo Alto. They took me to the police station, the basement of the police station. Then they put me in a cell. I was the first one to be picked up, so they put me in a cell, which is just like a room with a door with bars on it. You could tell it wasn't a real jail. They locked me in there in this degrading little outfit. They were taking this experiment too seriously.
At 2:30 a.m., the prisoners were rudely awakened from their sleep by the night guard shift for their count. The guards were told to routinely perform counts to familiarize the prisoners with their numbers and determine that they were all present and accounted for. But more important, it provided a regular occasion for the guards to interact with and exercise control over the prisoners. When waking the prisoners for the 10 o'clock count, the morning guard shift found that the prisoners in cell number 1 had removed their stocking caps, ripped off their numbers, and barricaded themselves inside the cells by putting their beds against the door. In retaliation for the prisoners' insubordination, the guards stripped naked the prisoners in cell 2 and 3 and removed their beds, and they demanded that the barricade be removed from cell 1. One of the ringleaders of the rebellion, prisoner 8612, protested loudly. "8612 decided that the only way to get out was to show everyone he had gone crazy. Then they would have to release him. He began to play the role of the crazy person, but soon the role became too real as he went into an uncontrollable rage.
I feel so fucked up inside. I feel really fucked up inside. You don't know. I gotta go. To a doctor, anything. I can't say that. I'm fucked up. I don't know how to explain it. I'm all fucked up inside!"
Less than 36 hours into the experiment, we had no choice but to release prisoner 8612.
And I began to lose all sympathy I had for them, and any respect that might have been present, I just shut out. Then I began to treat them as coldly as possible, as harshly as possible. And by the third day, I had done such a good job convincing myself that I was acting like that. I treated the prisoners like they were of a distinct inferior order than myself.
Some surprising things happened. When introducing themselves, half of the prisoners used their number, not their name. When asked why they were in jail, most answered with the charge told to them by the Palo Alto police. The priest asked them what action they were taking to get out of jail while they were awaiting trial. The prisoners really got confused. He chided them for not knowing their civil liberties and for not getting a lawyer to bail them out.
Prisoner 819 did a bad thing. Prisoner 819 did a bad thing.
As soon as I realized that 819 could hear this, I rushed to the room where I had left him. And what I found was a boy crying hysterically, while in the background his fellow prisoners were chanting and yelling that he is a bad prisoner and that they were being punished because of him. He agreed to be released from his imprisonment and quit the experiment.
Stay down there. Stay down there.
By this stage in the experiment, the prisoners had displayed 3 ways to cope with their feelings of frustration, absolute powerlessness, and their growing sense of helplessness and despair. At first, most prisoners fought and rebelled against the guards. By now, 4 of them had reacted passively by breaking down emotionally, forcing us to release them. And still others had reacted by becoming model prisoners. One such prisoner, 2093, was nicknamed Sarge by the other prisoners because of the way he followed the guards' orders so readily. It was also apparent that there were 3 types of guards. The good guards, who felt sorry and did little favors for the prisoners. Tough but fair guards who followed the rules. And the sadistic guards who constantly degraded and humiliated the prisoners. Even Sarge, the obedient prisoner, was abused. I was watching all this on the television monitor in my office with one of my graduate students. I was amazed that the guard would keep that boy in solitary all night as punishment for not eating cold, dirty sausages. I was amazed that the prisoners would keep their blankets instead of letting 416 out of the hole. This was a true prison, where frustrated guards acted sadistically against prisoners like 416, who would not submit to their control, and where demoralized prisoners acted selfishly and shamefully. I told her that I was really impressed with what we had accomplished in less than a week. She looked at me and said, "I think what you are doing to those boys is horrible." And she was right. I had to end the experiment, because that's what it was, an experiment, not a prison. These were real boys who were really suffering, and that fact had escaped me. I and everyone else around me, except for that graduate student, had gotten so far into their prison roles, prisoner, guard, superintendent, whatever, that it was hard to separate reality from the simulation. It just didn't occur to me until she spoke out that I, as a psychologist, as a human being, had to do something about that suffering. I had to end the experiment.
Once you put a uniform on and are given a role, a job, saying your job is to keep these people in line, then you're certainly not the same person as if you were in street clothes and in a different role. You really become that person once you put on that khaki uniform, you put on the glasses, you take the nightstick, and you act the part.
It let me in on some knowledge that I've never experienced firsthand. I've read about it. I've read a lot about it. But I've never experienced it firsthand. I've never seen someone turn that way. And I know you're a nice guy. You know?
Do
you understand? I do. I do know you're a nice guy.
Then why,
I don't get
me?
bad because I know what you can turn into. I know what you're willing to do. If you say, "Oh well, I'm not going to hurt anybody. Oh well, it's a limited situation. It's over in 2 weeks."